Good morning, everyone. We are very happy that you have joined us for this Light Body Live. And wherever you are, it could be also afternoon or evening, depends on where in the world you're joining us from. We really look forward to doing these sessions. Uh, Lately, we've been doing them on Fridays, and we've also planned or been thinking about, well, just doing them at any time spontaneously. So it could be that we just let everyone know within minutes when we feel like doing something. A lot of times when we're out in the morning, walking in the woods or the forest, we start to have ideas and experiences that we want to also interact with our light body community with. And so anyway, we're very pleased to be doing these sessions. We enjoy them very much, and I think that's important for us as well. And hopefully the information is useful to everyone that's joining. Um, what we're seeking to do is to provide a framework for personal growth, spiritual development, um, the expansion of the qualities that we'd oftentimes identify as health, expansion of consciousness at a time where expansion of consciousness can raise the frequency of not only our own system, so that that's changing our perspective on what we see around us. Also, it changes our perspective about the power and energy we have to do something about what's happening around us, influence what's going on around us, um, but also to influence community and beyond at a time where it seems like there may be trouble in the global atmosphere. We have leverage if we um, exercise that leverage from a certain place. Uh, People that are oftentimes involved in the evolution of consciousness, the awakening of consciousness, are not those that would go out and protest and be angry about something, but usually would just influence things to a higher state of harmony through the development of their consciousness. So we're seeking to provide a framework for this kind of development and the tools that can be utilized. Now, a lot of times when we say framework or structure, we see it as a more rigid idea and that we have to follow step by step. And sometimes that can be useful. Um, However, this framework that we're offering is more liquid. It has more pliability to transmute to different situations, both the personal situation or the changing situation that's going on around us, inside of us. So it's a liquid, and it's a interactive, not only interactive between other people that are doing this kind of work, but interactive between the different levels of our being, our physical, our emotional, our mental, our emotional, our spiritual, all these levels. As the light body awakens and the consciousness awakens to regulate that light body system, those systems are all wanting to interact with each other. And that interactiveness creates synergy, which creates further development. And we can see that development and the how that development unfolds in different ways. We can describe it in different ways. Sometimes we've called that a spiritual birth, which is very specific. It's almost like the inverse of the birth that we go through to enter the human world. We also go through birth to enter into the vibrational world. And they have a lot of similarities, and also not only in how they happen, but also in the preparation to the point where it happens. So that interactive framework, we can see something like a multidimensional liquid puzzle where pieces are coming together not only on one plane, like not only in the physical level, but also pieces come together on the emotional level, and then those pieces connect to the ones on the physical. And it's a very organic process. So we can't say exactly for each person it's going to happen X, Y, and Z, We can give ideas of how it does happen. There are ways that are common, but then there are unique ways that this happens for each person. And we're trying to also give the awareness skills so that you can identify not only those general ways that this coming together and um, clarity of the picture arrives, um, but also like how we can identify the uniqueness of our own journey and develop that part. So it has this kind of interactive flexibility and this idea like multidimensional chess. This is a multidimensional puzzle where one level is becoming clear, another level becoming clear, and then they become synergistic, and then it creates a leap forward. Within that framework, um, oh, and before I continue, I want to say that if you have questions or you'd like to make a comment, please feel free to write it in the chat. And in order to get into the chat, you have to subscribe. That's just the way that YouTube is working. So please join in and participate. Really are curious to hear your ideas. And also, at least just typing in hello and who you are. We'd like to know, who's out there. We know that there are people out there, but we can only see numbers. We can't see names or places. Anyway, going right along within this framework, we have these um, tools of development, areas of development. And we could say that the outer body, the vibrational body, which is not only external to the physical body, but it penetrates deeply into the physical body. And I think that's a key realization, that it's functioning inside the physical body. And one of the main things to make the outer body connection and regulation useful, very, very useful, is to understand that the outer body, the energy body, functions like a membrane. It's a continuation of the cellular membrane principle. So that's something that we've discussed and we will discuss in detail in the future. And it's also integrated idea of within most of our courses. The regulation of this membrane is regulation of permeability, which is a key quality of a membrane. We can become more permeable when we want to take in, and we can become less permeable when we want to avoid taking in or we want to have a higher degree of filtration to what's around us. So like if we're in a very emotionally reactive situation, if we're in a very busy area where a lot of people are going here and there, like a airport or something like that, generally we want to become less permeable. And we can use our awareness and our consciousness to pull this vibrational body closer and to have it less, less taking in ability. When we're around a situation that we're really inspired by, when we're oftentimes in nature, breathing, taking in light, uh, in a deep light body experience, we want to expand and become more permeable and take in more high vibration, more high frequency, which means higher degrees and higher levels of information, different kinds of information, not just conceptual, but also intuitive information, and which is transcendent of conceptual. And transcendent of intuitive is impressionistic information. So the permeability regulation is a key ability, and it's a very basic starting area, and it's always something that we can go back to, because this framework that we're talking about, it's like a reference point. And no matter how much we expand or how high we can go with different techniques, we always want to be able to stabilize ourselves, ground ourselves, and have a base. And so this is what the outer body can do. And especially when we understand that we can consciously regulate that outer body permeability according to different situations. Like we might be in a situation where two people are really angry with each other and we're not really involved, but we're very open, so it's affecting us. So we can step back and literally close our membranes so that we can empathize, but we're not taking in and letting that uh, energy of rage and anger disrupt our system. Just as a quick example. Um, when you're with someone that you really care about and you really want to listen and you really want to participate, then you can become more permeable. And sometimes if you're not permeable enough, someone around you or some persons around you may feel that you're not empathetic, that you're not engaging. And so it gives you that kind of fluid ability to engage when you want to and when it's appropriate, and disengage when you want to avoid negativity and negative impact. Uh, then within the outer body, and as an intermediary in the beginning between the physical and the energetic, we have the chakras, and everyone knows chakras and probably has read books about it. Location, colors, sounds, all these kind of um, qualities of the chakra. The chakra way we present it is how to feel it, how to really connect to the feeling of it, and how to regulate the balance, not only of the motion of the chakra, but also between the chakra front aspect and the chakra back aspect. Every chakra has a front and a back, at least the 5 that are more on a horizontal type plane. And so the balancing of those is very important. Physically, when we don't feel well, if you know how to balance the chakras, you can go to each chakra, and most likely you're going to find 1 or 2 of those chakras that are really off balance. They're wobbling, they feel disconnected. One might feel like it can't circulate freely or disperse its energy freely. And so these are really key, let's say, abilities to acquire, because there are more things affecting our health, physically, emotionally, the quality of food, the quality of water, the quality of air, all these type, and the psychological aspect. And as we gain the ability to regulate chakras, then we recognize that working with chakras activates further development of the light body. They become like an engine, like a jet engine for the movement of the light body. And what the light body becomes what we call like a diamond light body vehicle to travel through different planes, through different dimensions, which to, for the most part, we're already doing, but normally quite unconsciously. And we're being affected by those type of travels. So the idea here is to become more aware and conscious of those travels and be able to also regulate the quality of those travels and the influence. Also with the chakras, a very important part of our development, essential development of our awakening, is the synthesis of the male and female aspects of the heart chakra. And in the Homo sapien condition state, we have this heart chakra, and the other chakras are more like vertically placed. But as the heart chakra awakens, and the female, which is at the manubrium, and the male, which is in the sternum, they start to vibrate together and they synthesize. Then the whole orientation of the chakras and how they operate within the light body transforms. It becomes more orbital, more of an atomic type of movement. So that's something that oftentimes people stumble onto in meditations and in the chakra work. However, it's something that eventually also you can consciously invoke and then utilize the capacities of that invocation. Very important element within this framework that is grossly underrated and for the most part unknown is the cranial rhythm. So a lot of people are familiar with craniotherapy, craniosacral therapy, and they don't realize that the cranial rhythm is something we can utilize within ourselves. We don't need a therapist for this. Now, that's not to say that craniosacral therapy is not useful. It certainly is. But we can also go in, we can experience the cranial rhythm throughout the whole body, and we can find places where the distribution of that cranial force is not balanced. It's trapped, and we can consciously release that. Also, the cranial rhythm acts to integrate different aspects of our system, the chakras, the outer body, and it becomes kind of an intermediary link. Um, Also, working with the cranial system deepens our experience of what we call the proprioceptive awareness. And this is where we start to feel very subtle sensations within the body that we normally don't notice. And we also start to notice the multiple types of movements that happen within our energy system. And the value of that, of course, is that then it alerts us to where balance and regulation is needed, where it's necessary. And also, as soon as we work with the the proprioceptive awareness, it triggers our parasympathetic nervous system, which is a very, very potent part of our physical body and also a very important influence on our energetic body. It very simply understood as the part of our nervous system that activates, innervates all of our regenerative functions, all of our energy rebuilding functions. It's the core of what we call the relaxation response. It's the trigger point for all of the necessary organic functions throughout the system, meaning our circulatory system, our digestive system, respiratory, nervous system, and our immune system. So we can't really say enough about the importance of the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is activated when we're working with the cranial rhythm, when we go inside ourselves and we're able to identify the flow of expansion and contraction that's happening in the cranial system. And last but certainly not least, but most delicate, let's say, is the Kundalini. Very famous, and there's a lot of conflicting information about it. The way that we're working with it is to start out by always harmonizing the Kundalini channels, the Ida and Pingala, the core nadis. And the Kundalini ultimately becomes the DNA of the light body. And you can see that it's the same formation as the DNA, but then it transforms into the DNA at a higher level. So the Kundalini, for this whole process of awakening, we're always going to it more as a way to balance, and that the flow of those channels are symmetrical and have a good flow. And this will always ground the system, but not only grounded in the physical plane, but grounded in the emotional plane, psychological plane. And so without activating further stimulation of the Kundalini or forcing it to rise through the system, which causes like a lot of aberrant problems that have been very challenging for people that have accidentally or even consciously overstimulated the Kundalini. You'll get many, many benefits from just this day-to-day harmonization of the Ida Pingala flow. And with the development of all the rest of this system, then eventually we will be ready to trigger the higher flow, the higher power of the Kundalini. The Kundalini, as I've been talking about it, is balancing our energy. So you'll find that, like the chakras, when you're low energy, when you don't feel well, whether it's chronic or acute, you're going to find that that flow of the Ida Pingala has some kind of irregularity to it. Even some places where the channel feels like it's not actually flowing through, where it disappears. And as you work to bring it back to symmetry and the force of it to distribute equally along its path, you'll notice improvements. And a lot of times you can use it and notice improvements instantly. Like, let's say you're a massage therapist or a Shiatsu practitioner, and you're right in the middle of the treatment, you feel like your energy gets low. You can, as you continue to work, move the energy through those channels, and you'll notice 9 out of 10 times or more that your energy picks back up and you're back into the flow of the treatment. But you can do this with anything. If you're doing something creative, if you're doing conceptual work, so I highly recommend that you utilize this. Now, like everything else that I'm talking about, benefits, results, things that you can use it for, whether long term or immediate term. There's a range of how and what you can expect from it. So sometimes you get amazing reaction, and sometimes you just get a slight improvement or change. So I've learned that you have to appreciate both. Occasionally it seems like it doesn't work, but that doesn't negate all the times that it did work. And so you also have to know that, so that if it doesn't seem to have an impact in this particular day or this particular time, that doesn't mean that the next situation where it could be useful, you should just say, well, it didn't work the last time, so I'm going to forget about it, because it doesn't work that way. Sometimes the next time you use it, it could be the most profound um, result that you get. Ultimately, the Kundalini becomes the nuclear reactor, the fuel rods, nuclear fuel rods of the light body and the diamond vehicle. So it powers, it gives the flow of high quality, high frequency energy to the system. And it's kind of like a nuclear fusion, where it's more happening through things coming together, synthesizing and releasing a tremendous amount of energy. So we're in no hurry to get there. We need to make sure that all these systems are in place, that we have good command over the regulating of those ideas, and can sense them and notice when they're calling out to us to give us information, to give us experience, but also calling us to regulate, to notice, to balance. And of course, the life itself is a mirror for that, but also checking in internally how we feel. Our inner self is also an inner mirror for that. So we're paying attention to when we need to do this regulating and balancing. And so I wanted to say that because providing this liquid, interactive, multidimensional puzzle, framework, is what we're seeking to do with the Light Body Live and all the materials that we present in our educational courses. We're very enthusiastic about it. We really look forward to our daily practice, as an example. I can't wait to get up in the morning and get to my daily. It's not, I mean, it's a practice, but it's also like getting up and going on a journey out into the woods or out into the atmosphere, out into the human world, whatever. And I'm really pleased that when I go to bed at night, I'm thinking, well, I can't wait to wake up and go to those journeys, those practices. It's not the only thing I do. I'm involved in writing music. I'm still doing Shiatsu sessions, Shintai sessions, and I have 7 children, so they keep me quite busy. But it's all a organic process that I look forward to. I would say 99% of the time. I'm not going to say absolutely all the time, but it's a high percentage, and I'm very grateful for it. So there are some questions, and I have a process that I want to talk about after we do a couple of questions about how we can do things within this framework, planned things, but also spontaneous and improvised things that are very interesting. So I'm going to show you something before we close today, but after we answer a couple of questions.
Nishani, from France said, I was working on an outer membrane a good 40 to 50 inches out and sensed a real temperature difference, much cooler, and it was bubbling. Does that resonate with you?
It does. It does, because as you go out into each layer, you're going more away from the physical dynamics, the dynamic physics of the plane, the human plane that we usually function in, with things, surfaces, densities. And so the quality of temperature, the quality of sensation, the perception of time, as an example, all starts to shift. All of our definitions start to change. As we go further into the energetic plane, also the whole concept of temperature starts to disappear.
Question someone had emailed in, what makes the light body work different than typical styles of meditation that people might hear about?
Okay. Well, I'd like to just start out by identifying a few of the similarities. Um, when we usually initiate light body work or light body experiences, or we initiate meditation, we utilize the breath. And these numerous types of breathing that instructors give or that we already know. And I'd say one of the universal effects of those types of breathing is that they trigger this parasympathetic nervous system, and also, therefore, um, kind of interconnected with parasympathetic is the proprioceptive. So we start to have more awareness of subtleties that normally during the day in our earlier life we didn't notice. And we start to notice these fine movements, fine sensations of our body, our insides, of the external. Regular meditation, before I go into that, and so because of this parasympathetic and proprioceptive connection, both are beneficial for healing because they're stimulating this parasympathetic response, which is regenerative. It's releasing stress conditions. It's reducing stress hormones, like cortisol, lowers the cortisol level. And there's research that shows this. Sometimes it's identified as the relaxation response. So either one is very good for healing, well-being, serenity. Although not 100%, sometimes meditation and light body work can also bring your attention to areas where you have anxiousness. But usually when your attention is brought to that, it's more in the context of how you can reduce it, reduce the negative impacts of stress, of past experiences. So those things will come up as well, seemingly stressful, but usually in this context of transforming to something that's less negative. Now, with meditation, a lot of meditation practices are what they call single-mindedness on one factor, like the breath the whole time, or the concept of empty mind, no thoughts, just being. Whereas with light body work, we're intentionally bringing our attention to specific sensations through proprioception, and through those sensations and the realizing of more subtleties of sensations, even smells, vibrations, then we're able to enter into what I've talked about previously today, regulation. We can't regulate the outer body if we don't feel it. We can't regulate the outer body if we're not noticing its degree of permeability. Now, to notice that doesn't take a lot of practice, and it does take some practice. You have to start doing it. So this is something that we do intentionally. we bring our attention to the chakras one by one, and to see how, through the proprioceptive sensations, how is the movement, how is the flow, how is the front and back, harmony. And if we see discrepancy, we can alter that, we can balance it. But also, once these energetic functions are working, this is the baseline. We start to get a tremendous amount of information through those chakra movements, through that outer body movement. And one of the key phrases that we use is that at the proprioceptive level, sensation is information, all kinds of information, everything from very basic concept to very abstract, very, how do you say, impressional type of, well, what we could say is information. So it starts out with balancing, regulating, well-being, but then it also has this other effect where we're receiving information of different sorts, and that information and sensation is activating the development of the light body faculties. And when that starts to become more active, you have synthesis. And with synthesis comes greater development. So it's a logarithmic practice. And it's like this liquid puzzle I talked about. One level, something comes together, another level, something comes together. And then those two processes, whether it's physical and spiritual, whether it's emotional and psychological, cause a synergistic reaction that causes energy, information, awareness to function at a higher level. So we go through development at different levels in each of these categories. And like I said, it's a framework, and you can start out by learning the outer body, identifying the cranial rhythm and doing some processes with that. And as you get into this, you become more independent, where you start to notice how these different systems want to work together, how they're needing to work together. And then you can guide your own process in order to have that happen. So this is, I think, the key difference between light body activation and meditation. They have a lot of likenesses, and they have some very specific uniquenesses.
The question, Sonia from Portugal. Sometimes when I meditate, I start to feel the movement of a spiral on the top of my head. Is this related to the cranial rhythm you talked about?
Spiral on the top of the head. Well, the spiral on the top of the head, I mean, yes, it's very typical, because what did she say when she's meditating?
Sometimes, if she didn't say.
Because once you start to feel that, then you've entered into proprioception, and that spiral could be primarily could be the crown chakra, and it can be interesting for you to notice the spiral, but also ask yourself, what does that feel like, and then bring your attention to the feeling of that spiral and how it's affecting the top of your head and maybe penetrating down into your cranial cavity. It can be also the interaction of the crown area and what we call the soul star and it's also trying to bring your attention there. And because it's your time to become aware of what those connections want to bring you in your development, in your journey. Are there any more questions? Anyone want to share anything about what I'm saying here? Lynn and I are having a good time just sitting here in our little studio room, which also doubles as our treatment room.
Mm-hmm. Someone came in for a treatment the other day that was on one of the Light Body Lives, and halfway through the treatment, she looked up and saw the chalkboard. She's like, "Oh, is this where you do the filming?"
Yeah, this is the studio.
Yeah. No other questions are coming in right now. So if you
Okay,
want to do a process.
I do. So a lot of times when we're doing these, um, well, processes that you may have discovered, but we've offered many, many, many different kinds of processes for each one of these categories, um, including breathing exercises, physical integration exercises, proprioceptive exercises. Um, so all of this, we've done numerous different kinds of talks. We've done processes to help everyone um, connect and do what I'm talking about, regulating, integrating, synthesizing, all that. Sometimes suddenly your attention will come to something that you didn't do before, a process or an idea. And within that framework, you can see that a spontaneous process can be very useful. Now, sometimes I've had that happen, and then that's become my focal point for months, for days or weeks, but also for months. Something that just arose while I was doing a light body experience. And then, even though the light body experience might have been very broad and incorporated a lot of the different um, components that I'm talking about, it might have been something very specific. And it became clear I need to work on that part to give greater strength to the whole system. And then this would go on possibly for, like I said, days, weeks, sometimes months. And then suddenly it would switch back and I could see how it would be integrated back into the whole system. So your system's constantly trying to bring your attention to what and where you need to be. Just like the question we had about the spiral at the crown, this is something that is trying to get your attention. It's like somebody snapping the fingers saying, hey, over here. And then you say, oh, okay. And then you notice something about what's over there that you need to pay attention to. Lynn, did you want to say something?
A few weeks ago, I started keying into something that had been trying to get my attention on and off actually for years. And I just kept ignoring it. And it's my brain.
Huh.
So it was really coming to me to feel into the different lobes of the brain and also just the three main areas like the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the hindbrain. And so, just in a general way, going in and feeling the tissues or the lobes or those areas. And because I was really often challenged with feeling the cranial bone movements. And so I kept trying to do that, kept trying to do that. And even though I'm with you so often and studying this work and doing it all the time, I was not paying attention to what was trying to get my attention. So I started to do that in the last few weeks. Somehow I've really been enjoying, for no particular reason, just going in and feeling these areas of the brain. And then now when I go to work with the outer body, I'm really noticing a difference in especially the left side of my outer body around the head. It's always felt kind of caved in and vacant, and it's starting to fill out a little more. So it's just interesting that I was kind of watching myself ignoring this signal, partly because I never heard you talk about it too. You know,
Hmm.
like I'm waiting for you to give a class on the lobes of the brain or something. I mean, that's not conscious, but why wasn't I following that and going in on my own?
Yeah.
My conditioning was so strong
Hmm.
to not pay attention.
Hmm. So, I mean, it's good to do both at the same time. Pay attention to another experience, but also to be very, how to say, acknowledging to your own, um, and realizing that you can have information come to you uniquely. So that's one of the things that I'm most enthusiastic about all this material and information is that it's really providing the tools for self-sufficiency, independent spiritual growth, and independent truth verification. And that's something that we have talked about in the past. It's in some of our light body exploration days, but independent truth verification becomes available. And this independent spiritual development doesn't mean that we negate all the other possibilities, but it also means that we are responsive to our own unique path and what that provides, and how at some level our higher self is trying to lay that out for us. And partially what we're doing here is gaining the ability to notice how that path is being laid out before us. Okay, so is there another question?
One more comment. Anna Maria from Italy said, these days I'm trying to coordinate my cranial rhythm and the flow of my meridians while taking short breaths.
Cool idea. And see, there's something right there. That's just something that Anna Maria found, and she's doing it, and probably getting some really interesting experiences from that. So thanks for telling us that. I haven't done that, and so could be that the next time I go off into a journey, I'll try it. Okay, so some couple elements that we hear about, and we can utilize these, and this gives like a real central connecting within our physical layer to really support the energetic layer. So the first thing is the very famous vagus nerve. It flows from the brain down through the medulla oblongata back here. And for those of you that know acupuncture points, acupressure points, governing vessel 16, right under the center of the cranial structure. And there's many pictures on the internet. If you don't know where it is, just put in Google governing vessel 16 acupuncture point, and you'll see numerous pictures of how to locate it. Anyway, that's the medulla oblongata, and the vagus nerve is very connected to that, from the brain to that, and then it branches out all throughout the body, actually. That's why it's vague. Vagus nerve is like vague. It's not really clear. But it comes down and it distributes. It's very influential in the heart and the organs, and it has a very big influence on our gut health. And there's a connection between the vagus nerve and our gut health. And our gut health is also very important, of course, for many, many things, nutritionally, energetically, also hormonally, because the gut is like where 90% of our serotonin is produced. Serotonin then circulates through the body and gets transformed into melatonin. This is very important for sleep quality, which then influences all of the organs and all of our body processes. It's like a cycle. Melatonin also transforms to higher chemical configurations that activate higher consciousness, visions, and such. So this vagus nerve to the gut, serotonin, melatonin, higher levels of consciousness are all related. We can also just think about it for nuts and bolts well-being, just to feel well and to feel relaxed in different situations. Now, I want to show you a way to activate the vagus nerve, which means to activate this deep, deep relaxation response. And you can also bring your attention to another parasympathetic nerve that interacts with the vagus nerve, which is called the trigeminal nerve. Now that nerve also is from the medulla, the brain to the medulla, and it branches out all throughout the face. So it gives influence on the eyes, the sinus cavities, which are very important in our resonance. And it's also activated by all of the movements of chewing, mastication. So it's related to these muscles like the masseter. And the TMJ is a focal point of that. The temporal bone, mandibular bone, where they join. I think I'll just use these. Maybe this one. Okay. And so here's the temporal. Here's the temporal bone. It's the one that's right around behind the ear, like this. And then the mandible. And they come together in the temporal mandibular joint. So if you put your right in front of the ear and you open up, that's where this joint, temporal mandibular joint, or TMJ. So the trigeminal nerve is very integrated with this TMJ. And then that is connected to the medulla, which then is also interacting directly with the vagus nerve. So this is also a good way to reset the vagus nerve. It's a good way to reduce stress hormones. And so I'd like to show you something that you can do. Now, there's two ways to do this, and you can do either one. The first one will incorporate something that we've talked about a lot as a possible starting point if you haven't done much work like this before. And the other one, the second way to do this, is to feel the cranial rhythm, to feel your own cranial rhythm in the head. And what you can feel is, when you tune in to the cranial rhythm, you feel, this is the temporal bone. Here's the ear is here. So this is behind the ear. This is the ear canal. And so the mandible. So that's where we had our finger, where we tried to identify before. What you feel is a separation and a coming back together. And right here in this area, when you feel the cranial rhythm, it expands. It feels a little bit like elastic stretch and elastic pullback, like a rubber band pulling back into its shape. So it's kind of moving like this. I'm exaggerating, but it's minute to the proprioceptive awareness. It feels like a pretty big movement. So that's the second way. But when you can tune in to your TMJ and feel the cranial rhythm there, you're activating the trigeminal nerve, which is then sending a signal to the medulla and therefore activating the vagus nerve. So it's something like, can I go over here? So here, let's say, is the TMJ. And then here is the medulla. You have the vagus nerve. And here you have the TMJ, the medulla, the trigeminal. And so there, when you're feeling the sensation here at the TMJ, activating the trigeminal nerve, it's activating here at the medulla, and then stimulating activity of the vagus nerve, which is relaxation, regeneration, reduction of stress hormones, and many, many things, increased proprioceptive awareness, and it can go on and on. So this is a really great thing that you can do by itself, as we will do now, mostly. I'll do a few preliminaries. Or you can do this just right in the middle of any of these light body processes. Just fall right into this. So one of the things that we talked about, now I'm getting started with the actual process, um, is that when you can bring your attention to any place in the body, and when you connect, particularly to an acupuncture point, a meridian, chakra, Kundalini channels, you start to feel a numb or tingling sensation. And as your attention goes and connects more and more, the tingling sensation expands, becomes more intense. As an example, the center of the palm starts to expand, get more intense, and then come out through the back of the hand, spread along the bones. When you have experience with it, you can also contract that energy back into a more focalized location. So we worked on these kind of regulation tools in the past. So what I'm going to recommend is that you either, and you can do here on the TMJ, you can do both. You can go here where the jaw opens. You feel like when you open your mouth, it feels like there's a hole appears, and you can go in further. And then when you close your mouth, it pushes your fingers back out. And this little flap on the ear called the tragus, it's right in front of that usually, more or less. So you can massage in there. And then when we bring our attention there, you'll feel that sensation we're talking about, the numb or the tingling. You can do that. And then, or you can do both. You can just tune in to the cranial movement and feel this expansion of the TMJ at the cranial level. And at least tune into the sensation, but also this elastic quality of when it expands and contracts, opens and closes. And then get the sensation back here at the medulla. And so you can also just activate that by bringing your mind there, or you can just do a light massage back there. Now, the other thing that you might want to do is right below the navel, around the area of the second chakra in the front, push in there to get a little stimulation there. Because ultimately we're going to start out from the TMJ trigeminal, connect it to the medulla, the vagus, and then to the digestive tract. So here we go. We're going to start out by taking a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, let the air flow back over the nose, the back of the nose. Fill up the abdomen, the chest, the upper chest when you breathe in. And when you breathe out, just let the air flow back out, letting go of the upper chest, the abdomen. And the first area we're going to bring our attention to is the area of the TMJ, temporal mandibular joint. And you can either just bring your attention there, which may activate the numb and tingling sensation, or you can do a light massage there to stimulate it. And you'll feel that numb and tingling get stronger, more powerful, penetrating as your attention connects deeper. And if you are able to feel the cranial rhythm, bring your attention to the TMJ and notice the cranial rhythm expanding the TMJ joint. And then it releases and comes back together. And there's this elastic feeling there. And you may feel the sensation of numb and tingling or the elastic stretching and releasing travel through the entire mandible into the sinus cavities. You may feel it resonating the teeth. You may notice it resonating, tingling down into the ear canal. Numbness, tingling. You may notice that sensation spreads throughout the entire face and ultimately through the entire head. But just that alone has a transformative effect, bringing on the relaxation response, bringing us into proprioception. And we start to feel these movements more dynamically, greater range of movement, expanding, contracting of the cranial, expanding, contracting. Separating, coming back together, TMJ. And I'd like you to bring your attention to that point under the cranium, governing vessel 16. You can do a light massage there at the medulla point, or you can just use the attention. Bring your attention to that point. And as you bring your attention there, the numb and tingling appears. As you hold your attention there, it intensifies. You may feel that sensation penetrate into the cranium, into the back brain, the hindbrain, into the upper spinal cord and cervical vertebrae. This is activating the vagus nerve. And you can feel the TMJ on both sides connecting to that medulla point, governing vessel 16. Numb and tingling, flowing with the cranial rhythm. Now, if you don't feel the cranial rhythm yet, only just focus on the sensation, the tingling, the numb sensation. Either way, it will have the same effect. So there's a connection between the TMJ on both sides through the trigeminal nerve being stimulated, moving to the medulla oblongata, governing vessel 16, activating the back brain, traveling down on both sides of the neck, down into the torso, and down into the gut, the intestines, and now bring your attention to that point under the navel, but inside the abdomen, the second chakra. Let that tingling, numb sensation grow, penetrate. And continue to keep your attention on that point under the navel inside. numb and tingling, spreading maybe through the intestinal area, penetrating. You may feel it activating in the back through the sacrum, which is the back part of the second chakra. And see if we can feel these points together. The TMJ, right and left, expanding and contracting with the cranial rhythm. The medulla oblongata, GV16, and the point behind the navel. And you may feel all these points resonating together. You may feel energy traveling up and down the vagus nerve, traveling from the TMJ to the medulla via the trigeminal nerve. You may notice the sinuses opening, the ear canal opening, the head opening. So 4 points, TMJ on both sides, medulla, GV16, and the point behind under the navel. And for those of you that have done the outer body expansion, you can expand out into the etheric body. All while keeping your attention on to these points, expanding to the emotional body, expanding out into the mental body. You feel your physical body expanding into the frequencies of the outer body. And all the while, you have this penetration, the points at the TMJ, the medulla, and down into the abdomen. Notice the feeling of the whole body, the outer body. Notice the feeling of the room that you're sitting in, the walls, floor, ceiling. Notice the feeling of the space outside of the room that you're sitting in. Now let's exercise becoming more dense. Feel like you're lightly grasping the outer edge of your outer body, the outer layer, and pulling it in, mentally pulling it in to the physical body. And as you do, becoming more dense, more physical. Notice the form of your body, the density, the weight. And this is your grounding. And within all of this movement, you can still feel the 4 points that we started with. And take a deep breath. Let the eyes open slowly, still feeling the 4 points. And back to clear focus, still feeling the 4 points. And this is a very good way to reset the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve. And I think that you'll find that if you do this every day for a couple of weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you could even do it twice a day, because what we did just took, 5-10 minutes tops, that you're going to feel different. Not every day, not every moment, but if you zoom out and you look at that period where you do it every day, you're going to notice a shift in how you're experiencing your inner life and how you interpret that, and your outer life, the world around you. So look forward to hearing your comments about that. Please share with us the experiences that you have in utilizing these tools. It's the thing that we look forward to is hearing from everyone, and having you share the experiences on our platform so that everyone else can see it, becomes interactive. Sharing also becomes a way of supporting the other folks that are doing this work, and you know, co-helping each other to be aware, to notice what's happening. So is there anything more that you want to say, Lynn?
And feel free to share this process or any of the Light Body Lives with colleagues or friends that you think might be interested. Like Saul said, we might as well share the information. We all need as many ways to awaken and support our health as, it can benefit us, I think, greatly.
Yeah, it's so it's like a planetary community, and we look forward to seeing you, hearing from you, and it's been a pleasure to spend this time with everyone. We don't see you, but we feel you, and we notice you in the outer planes. So thank you again, and I wish you the best until we see each other next time.